I haven't looked. So. Sorry.
Hey folks, Rick Berube here live from the Success Center with Dan Mumm.
How's it going?
Probably give us a little idea, right?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, let's get into it. Let's start a little bit with market conditions and how things are going right now.
Yeah. So I didn't look before this video. I was supposed to check the last week's numbers, but yeah, the big news that we've talked about is just May's numbers.
Yeah.
So we talked about that. I don't know if we mentioned that last.
We did.
But,
we did a little bit.
Yeah, the prices are up. Inventory's down. Interest rates are still crazy low, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, overall the market condition's good. The number of sales went down, and that's why I just had someone text me this morning, actually, a client who's about to put his house on the market. He's like, Dan, I heard the market's down 48%. I was like, where did you hear that? He's like, oh, I don't know. I just heard it somewhere. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I sent him a few screenshots of like the market statistics. I was like, well, actually, here's directly from the MLS. The prices have gone up. The inventory's gone down. So
he's talking about closings.
Yeah, number of closings.
For like a 3-4 week period, the closings were down.
Right, and as we've talked about ad nauseum at this point, that was a lagging effect of what happened a few months before that. So,
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that the activity from a company standpoint is very similar. California is probably the one lagging. Arizona, Nevada, I would say they're 95%, close to at least 90%, where we were the week before this all started. Mm-hmm. Now the thing is, but it's been climbing to get there. So I wouldn't be shocked if not only did it keep climbing, but it climbed past that rate.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked by that.
Yeah, because if you looked at the trend before March 23rd, the supply was going like this, and the demand was going like this.
Right.
And then as soon as March 23rd hit, it kind of like those changed. So yeah, it seems like I completely agree. We're probably going to end up going back on that same path.
Yeah, and maybe a little past that too. Who knows? Because what is it now? It's June. Today's what, June 8th, right? June 8th. So it's very possible we can continue right past that. You gonna get that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So here's what I was saying. I saw at the end of in the elevator this morning on the way up. I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we talk about? Okay, things are opening up. It's getting busy. A lot of you should be down here. There's a few people here today. Congratulations for coming. The Success Center's open with Dan the Man. Learn how to do this. But you should always be focusing on your foundation. Like, what's your foundation? So when I say to you, who's been doing this a while now, how's your foundation? What do you think? What's the first thought that comes into your mind?
Yeah, skills and skills. That's basically it. Skills. So that's what we
skills.
talked about last week with these guys, and I'm glad they're here again. You know, one thought that I had related to that this morning was, you know, with baseball players, you're a baseball guy, right? So
yeah.
There's kind of an analogy here. Before a baseball game, they take BP, batting practice, right? When they take batting practice, the pitchers aren't throwing 95 mile an hour knuckleballs and curveballs. But for some reason, what most agents do is they don't practice at all. That's the biggest. They go into a game not swinging at a ball for the last week, and then they expect to hit 95 mile an hour fastball. It's not going to happen. And then the next thing they do is the ones that do practice, they step into batting practice and they start throwing knuckleballs at each other and fastballs. It's like, whoa, that's not how we should be doing this. The way you should start is, what made me think of this is you said the word foundations, fundamentals, the basics. You have to master those before you can move on to those other things.
Definitely.
So when you're role playing and practicing, like we've done this class, I can attest to it. We start with very basic stuff, like very basic objections. And people always ask me, they give me pushback, like, Dan, you're being too easy. It's like, well, if I'm being too easy, then you shouldn't be screwing up at all. Yeah. You should be doing it perfectly if I'm being too easy. Right. So that's the key with role playing practice. Just while we're talking about that, is one of the foundational things. You have to be able to absolutely master the basics before you go on starting to try and do more advanced stuff. So what's an example of that? Can you do a very basic listing presentation? Have you filmed it before? Have you done it, sat down with someone, filmed it, and then watched it after? And how do you look?
And critiqued it.
Yeah, and critiqued it. Can you handle very basic objections like, we already have an agent. What do you say? Do you have that drilled, rehearsed, practiced, internalized?
There's a new one.
I know, right? None of these are new. That's the crazy thing. So you just asked me, what are the foundations of my business? One is skills, and that's one thing that you should be working on. And there's a ton of other things just like that.
Yeah, so it's funny when you say batting practice, because I used to coach my son's my baseball team for years, and I would call them spicy meet the balls. You're throwing a fastball, but you're not throwing it as fast as you can. You're not trying to. You're getting your hand-eye coordination together to start a game. If you're a golfer, you go to the driving range to get it. It's just about getting your hands, and the same thing with your skills. Now, I had a good idea you were going to say that, skills. Now, when I hear foundation, it's amazing because you can use the same system and look at it differently. To me, when I think of the word foundation, I immediately think of schedule. Okay, which skills are part of it. But you're right. Without skills, your schedule isn't as fun, and without a schedule, you can't be exercising your skills. So it's like, the chicken or the egg. So they're both extremely important. So what I would say is, now that we've been, like the woman I was just talking to, coaching from Arizona, she's been homeschooling for 7 or 8, 10, 12 weeks now, which seems like an eternity if you are doing that. You got to get back in your normal schedule again. What are you going to do? How are you going to? Also, she's having her best year ever, which I know you are too, and a lot of people are. The woman I just interviewed, Michelle Klein from Arizona, she's having her best year ever, and she was number 3 in all of Arizona last year. So if you're not having a great year, it's probably because you're brand new in the business, or this last 7, 10, 12 weeks, whatever it's been, has really given you a curveball. You need to recover, and you need to get right back into the fundamentals.
Yeah, so just talking about all the fundamentals, and I'm sure Mike Ferry probably talked about this in your interview, but some of the other ones, skills, I would say, are one part of the foundation. One part of the foundation is your schedule, your time management. One part is your lead follow-up. One part is your pre-qualifying skills. One part is how good are you at going on presentations, your buying presentations, your listing presentations. Those are all, and then prospecting and lead generating. Like, how good are you at that? Yep. That makes up the foundation of a real estate business. Prospecting, lead follow-up, pre-qualifying, going on appointments, sticking to a schedule, developing your skills, and then I guess the only other things would be what? Like delegating.
I would add one more before that. I would say mindset.
Mindset, yeah.
Mindset, and that's what Mike talked about too. He said everything you just said, and because without a good mindset, see, people think, well, if I do all that, I have a great mindset. You'll probably have a better mindset, but mindset is like working out. The rest of the day goes better if you work out, whether it be at night or in the morning. I prefer the morning, but the rest of the day goes better because you feel great about yourself. It's the same thing with your mindset. You got to have a routine every day to really be good in order to have the right mindset for this job.
You know what's interesting? I was just talking about this weekend. Someone asked, what do you think will be obvious a year from now that wasn't obvious now? And the first thing that came to my mind was, speaking of mindset, it will be very obvious that the people who are able to control their mindset and are deliberate about it and intentional about it, and they're focused on it and what they allow into their brain, it's going to be very clear that that's an even more important skill in the future than it has been, because of everything that's going on. Because I've seen, just in this market, I've seen agents who have the same skill set, the same amount of time in the business, the same amount in their database. Everything's basically the same, and one agent was able to control their mindset, their business went this way, one agent wasn't, and their business went to zero. Like, they went out of business. Same market, like same access to everything, and literally just their ability to control their mindset completely changed the outcome. So yeah. I completely agree.
I think it's so important, and you got to have a routine to do that. Everything we just mentioned, your skills, you have to work on those. Your mindset, got to work on that. Your schedule, I mean, that's the toughest part for some people. Carving out time blocks to do all the things, lead follow-up, your prospecting, like we were talking last week, people actually, how can you definitely make your appointments every day at 1 and 4? Right? They ask you that all the time, don't they? Yeah. Well, tell them how you do that.
You just ask. At 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock, what's better for you?
Right.
That if here's a real tough script to practice. Someone says, I can't meet during those times. Okay, great. Well, I understand you can't meet during those times. What's a better day when you can meet maybe at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock? That's it.
Yeah. So
it comes down to how confident you are.
In my state, I could call the transaction fee a transaction fee. Here we call it the BAC. And people say, well, what's that for? Well, that's the cost of the transaction. That's the way I would explain it every time. Oh, okay. Yeah. Here, it's the administrative part of our commission. However you want to say it, but when you say it with confidence, people go, oh, okay.
Yeah. There's more to do with how you say it than what you say. Right. That's always the case.
All right. So work on that foundation. Keep it rocking. Because look, we have the numbers. If this is a trajectory that's going to continue, because remember, it went like this, it bottomed out. The little V they're talking about is very accurate right now.
I think so too.
Even though I don't like, whatever. The whole idea is that you want to be part of that progress. And in order to be part of it, you have to get back to foundational, fundamental things. Yeah. So I would recommend that you get right back in it right away. As a matter of fact, if you start now, you're already late, so start now. It's like people say, when's the best time to buy a house? I always go, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But you can't do that, so now's the best time.
Right.
Selling it. Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, so just while we're talking about foundation, the two most important things, one would be mindset. I should have said that first, because that's the root of everything else. That's where it all comes from. And then 2, I would say that the second most important is your lead generating or your prospecting. We have a saying in this class that I love that's prospecting solves all the problems in your life, and it really does.
It really does.
Because all of those other things come as a result of prospecting. If you prospect more, you have a better mindset, you have leads to follow up on, you qualify stronger, you don't take overpriced listings, you don't take out unqualified buyers. All of those things happen when you're prospecting. And when you don't prospect, then the opposite of all those things happen.
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing to focus on. And all those other things are important, obviously.
Definitely.
You have to be able to do all of them really well. But if you're not doing that, that's where I would start.
Absolutely. And it's like when I used to do my old talk on fundamentals, I'd say there's 3 words in fundamental. Fun, and then it's all mental, which it really is. And Mike talks a lot about that when I interviewed him last week, that the mindset is critically important. So, awesome, Dan. Thank you very much.
Yep.
We're going to get back to class here, so thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.